presentation. And I'm joined here by my colleague Cam, who's head of IR. Okay, so I'll get straight into it. I'm unsure how many of you are understand the sector. So I'm going to speak in more basic terms and just speak in a way that I won't assume that you guys have granular knowledge of the sector. So we're a Bitcoin miner with a massive wrinkle, and I'll discuss the wrinkle in a moment. There are 15 players in the sector of Bitcoin mining. And the takeaway is this. If you believe Bitcoin's going to go up, there's a lot of beta in Bitcoin mining stocks. So if Bitcoin goes up 100%, Bitcoin mining stocks go up 200, 300%. So for example, year to date, Bitcoin is up 200%, we're up 400%. So that's the play with Bitcoin mining. It's a very simple business, and I'll discuss a little bit more about the business, but just the takeaway when it comes to returns, if you believe Bitcoin's going to go up, don't buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin mining stock, because those stocks go up more than the actual underlying asset. Bitcoin mining is very simple. If you run a business responsibly, you'll have operational diversification. We have 7 operating partners in the United States, Canada, and Iceland. We don't own the actual real estate where the operators are. We actually put our money in the machines. So we buy all these specialized machines in Bitcoin mining, and we put them with our operators, and we create competitive tension with our operators. They all compete with each other to get the best terms, and we get the best terms possible with this competitive tension with all our operators. And we only go with operators who are sustainable. In other words, we just use hydro and volcanic power in Iceland. I'll go through the slides in a moment. I just want to give an overview before I get into this. And here's the wrinkle I was talking about. This is a fantastic wrinkle. It's also frustrating because we've been having some difficulty explaining to the capital markets this amazing wrinkle we have. We have a massive AI business where we make $35 million a year. Our G&A is $20 million per year. And we have a secured contract with a fantastic client for the next 3 years. And we're starting to post revenues as of January in 3 weeks. We just scored this. We just disclosed the contract to the capital markets. Capital markets did not give us any credit for it for some weird reason. I understand the reason. It's just nobody knows how to categorize us because we're a Bitcoin miner, and now we have this massive AI business. So we've become this AI business with certainty of revenue over the next 3 years with a call option on Bitcoin, which is a really great place to be. If you believe Bitcoin's going to go up, that's great. We have that call option. If Bitcoin goes sideways or goes down, we're great too because we're very profitable with this AI business. We have certainty of revenue over the next 3 years, and the client wants us to upsize the deal by a lot. So that's the story. I'm going to get into the page by page, but I just wanted to give you the overview of how we're different. We're different because we have this AI business. So we're not hoping that Bitcoin goes up. That's a crap strategy, frankly, hope. But if Bitcoin goes up, great. We have a massive fleet. We have it in 3 different jurisdictions, and we're going to do well. But if Bitcoin doesn't go up, we have this incredible AI business, and we can project our revenues very carefully with precision over the next 3 years. There's no correlation of AI to Bitcoin mining. One word about the AI business, and I will get into it in a moment. The AI business is divided into 2 worlds. There's the people who do ChatGPT. That's all the software stuff. They don't want to get involved in the hardware. We get involved in the hardware. What does that mean? We have access to NVIDIA machines. We bought a fleet of NVIDIA machines. We have access to a data center. We park that fleet in Iceland, and we rent the computational power to our client. Actually, we have a very pregnant pipeline of clients. They want to rent the computational power. It's a very specialized machine, of which we now have thousands of. Good luck getting access to these machines. It's very hard to get access to those machines. And we rent that computational power to the people who want to create these AI applications. We don't get involved in creating AI applications. That's not our thing. But we are very good specialists when it comes to acquiring hardware, NVIDIA machines hardware, and we're very good at securing these data centers, which we've been able to do. We have now 8 data centers that we work with. All right, so that's the overall story. I'm going to go through it page by page. And feel free, by the way, to interrupt and ask questions. So here are the highlights. We have large-scale operations. We have tens of thousands of machines, as I mentioned, in US, Canada, and Iceland. We think operational diversification is very important. Let me explain why. It's not just being paranoid. We used to be in China years ago. Our entire fleet was in China. And we thought, you know what, that's probably not a good idea. Let's start migrating our fleet to North America. We did that during COVID. By the way, that was a hard thing to do, to migrate tens of thousands of machines from China to North America during COVID. It was not the best time to do logistical moves like that. But we did that, and we did it well before China announced a ban on Bitcoin mining. So we think, it's just in our DNA to be diversified in operations because for two reasons. We don't want any existential issue. What happens if one day, what happens if one day Canada decides to ban Bitcoin mining? Well, we have a number of states in the United States and we have Iceland. So we're good. We can migrate our machines very quickly. We don't own the real estate. We're not stuck. We put the money in the machines, so we're infrastructure light. Put the money in the machines, and we have like this tenant, landlord relationship with these operators, and that's how we stay nimble. We have these large-scale operations. We're capital efficient. As I mentioned, we don't buy real estate. We buy the machines. That's where the juice is. We're positioned for growth. We've been growing our fleet aggressively this year, and we continue to do so. And we're sustainably focused. 99% of the miners are using carbon-free energy. And it's very important to say carbon-free. That's very different from carbon neutral. Carbon neutrality is kind of a bit of a distraction because what happens when you're carbon neutral is that you're creating the damage and then you buy certificates to offset the damage. Just be carbon free, just don't create the damage in the first place. So we're drawing from hydro and geothermal sources of power to power our fleet. We're not buying certificates to offset the damage. So if that's important for you guys, we check that box. But we don't do it just for a feel-good thing. We do think that politicians look at Bitcoin mining as a boogeyman towards something environmental. So we stay clear of that by being 99% carbon free. And as mentioned, we have this business that we just recently announced that the capital markets have not given us credit for, Bit Digital AI, and I will get into that in a moment. Our balance sheet, very competitive, 73 million, total liquidity, zero leverage, zero unfunded minor obligations, and we have a $500 million ATM effective with the SEC. I'll tell you the reason why we did not do any debt financing for Bitcoin mining. You just cannot project where Bitcoin is going to be in the future. So it's very hard to take on debt where the underlying asset is speculative. We didn't do that. A lot of people in our industry, unfortunately, drank their own Kool-Aid, took on a lot of debt, and now they're out of business. So we didn't do that. We have a very pristine balance sheet.
Yeah, so he's got it.
So as I mentioned, we have our strategic priorities this year, and we executed on all this, was to have a best-in-class balance sheet. We strategically deployed capital very carefully. We've done something that's in proof of stake, which I'll get into in a moment, and we've continued our focus on sustainability. As mentioned, our operations are all over the place, Canada, US, and Iceland. We don't venture off to Paraguay or Argentina or things like that, because as a lawyer, I'm just not comfortable with that jurisdictions. And as mentioned, we're infrastructure light. We partner with leading data operators. Here are some. And we like to diversify because it's good to, it's the theory of reducing your counterparty risk by having many counterparties. There's one thing we do with respect to our treasuries. We work them, so we have Bitcoin. This may be a little bit technical, but I'm just going to be very brief about it. So we have Bitcoin, we take those Bitcoin rewards, we exchange Bitcoin for something called Ethereum. Ethereum, we could stake the Ethereum, and we capture a yield on the staking, we take that yield and we pour that back into our operations. We invented this business model, and it creates this perpetual digital flywheel. Pretty low, 4%. Around? Yeah, it's pretty low. That's why I didn't want to get into it too much. Very low. In our business, AI, that we've recently announced. So we have this new business line. We've purchased about 1,500 H100 GPUs. Very hard to get your hands on that. As mentioned, we are basically infrastructure as a service. So we're just renting computational power to clients who need that computational power for them to do their generative AI. You don't need me to talk about how we think AI is the future. If you don't think so, we don't agree. Yeah, and as mentioned, we're posting revenues next month. Hopefully the capital markets will believe us that we've done this. We're the only ones in the sector who have done this in a material way. There are some who've announced aspirations, but aspirations are aspirations. We've actually done it. So that's it. Cam and I are happy to take some questions. Ask the toughest questions, we can answer them.
Just going back to the yield.
Yeah.
Celsius used to pay yield.
Uh-huh.
And they could handle it.
Uh-huh.
What's different?
Do you want to take that?
And that was just more like, well, Celsius went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And I think they were involved in more kind of sketchy yield farming.
Yeah.
I feel like 6%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ethereum, the yield for Ethereum staking used to be 8 or 9%, but it's sort of a function of how many people are staking on the Ethereum network at any point. So the more people that have their ETH staked, the lower the yields get. So 4% is where the prevailing yield is now. I mean, 3 months ago it was 6%.
The Ethereum staking is a tiny, tiny contributor to our overall revenues. Our overall revenues mostly come from Bitcoin mining and AI.
And the counterparty is the ETH network.
Right.
Where
There's no
Celsius
counterparty risk.
was using,
Yeah.
I think, like different shitcoins, as people call them, where different grifters would basically print this coin and offer a 20% yield. It was
Fair enough. I don't consider other coins other than Bitcoin and Ethereum, period. But getting to Bitcoin, the algorithm reduces the amount of Bitcoin you can earn, right? So that market share is shrinking, isn't it? And then as powerful your GPUs are and competitors, like whoever earns the first Bitcoin is getting harder and harder. Electricity costs rising. How do you see in that competitive environment?
Actually, electricity costs is,
Well,
yeah.
I know it's always about geography.
Yeah, Iceland is pretty good.
Okay. So okay, we're looking worldwide.
Yeah. We don't. I mean, that's the thing. Like we don't. There are some people in our sector who are way bigger than us, but they have this they're just they put all their eggs in one basket. In, for example, say Texas, and that's
Costa Rica.
or Argentina or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we have a pretty good menu that gives us a beautiful blended return and cost on our energy.
But you are right. Every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin issuance gets cut in half. So in April, today there's 900 new Bitcoins minted today. In April, there's 450. So our industry's production cost will effectively double. So if we needed 20,000 today, we need a 40,000 Bitcoin price to break even post-April.
The question, what's after?
But guess what's not related to that? Our AI business.
Yeah.
And then in past cycles, it's always been Bitcoin's appreciated dramatically post-halving, whether it has to do purely based on the halving event or sort of monetary cycles. It's hard to understand, but there are some natural mechanisms whereby higher-priced miners will drop off the network, thereby reducing the difficulty and lowering everyone else's production costs.
But AI is used to supplement the spin-up, I guess, processes to solve it, or other than that, just could you elaborate on that?
Go ahead.
They're two separate
Two
businesses.
totally separate businesses, and the reason for that is because when you're buying a Bitcoin mining stock, you are ultimately speculating. You don't know where Bitcoin's going to be next year. You may win. Likely you're going to win. But as you see, Bitcoin's been going up plenty. But we want to be in a position where we want to have like a win-win scenario, which is you have this AI business, 35 million a year. The client wants to upsize the deal. Our G&A is 20 million, so we're doing really well. Wherever Bitcoin goes, completely uncorrelated. And if Bitcoin goes up, that's great. We're a call option on Bitcoin with a fantastic underlying AI business. Hard to explain that to the capital markets. They're like, so what are you? Well, kind of a new category. We're misunderstood.
So if you are going to hire a new employee or you're reinvesting back into your business, how are you?
I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing too many parties.
If you're going to say hire a new employee or reinvest back into the business, how are you deciding which of the two business lines you're going to focus on?
So we hired. So when it comes to the fleet of AI, what we had to do is park all that into an existing tier 3 data center in Iceland. We made 0 hires to do that. We're just hiring the landlord of that data center. And we have the existing relationship with NVIDIA. Why? Because we've been in crypto for many years, and NVIDIA used to do Ethereum mining machines. So we had that relationship with NVIDIA for many, many years because we were involved in specialized machines and chips with NVIDIA for many years. So we were able to leverage that relationship and get these AI machines. And we got that, and we're putting that by the end of this month in Iceland. And we have made 0 hires for that because the only hire we did do actually, no, that's not true. We hired 1 person because we created a new subsidiary called Bit Digital AI. And for tax reasons, we had to have an Icelandic person in that subsidiary. So we made 1 hire. But the real cost was to negotiate the contract and the revenue split and so on with the tier 3 data center. And they have a massive team. But that's our business model. We find these data centers, we negotiate legally and economically what's the best deal for both sides to be aligned. And that's how we do it. Instead of hiring hundreds of people, if we owned our own infrastructure, if we owned our own real estate and operations, we'd have like hundreds of people in our company. We currently have 7 operations in 3 different countries, 2 different businesses. We have, I think, 22 employees. So we're infrastructure light.
I can elaborate on that question though. I mean, now we have a choice for capital allocation where the normal Bitcoin miner is forced to reinvest their profits into mining equipment regardless of the stage of the cycle. Now we have a business where the returns profile for this contract is we spend 50 million in round numbers for 90 million in EBITDA over 3 years. So depending where the Bitcoin price is, if it offers a better return, we can allocate capital to mining over that. That's sort of the watermark that we need to clear to invest more into mining equipment.
Given the fact that you continuously be online, how you manage cyber risks?
How do it, sorry?
Cyber risks.
5 minutes from cyber risks. How do we manage cyber risks? You mean with our emails? Wait, I don't understand the question. Because we don't have a cyber issue.
It's not a major.
It's a hard
What are they getting offline? Irrational, I guess, losses. If you get attacks, malware.
Like if somebody attacked the whole Bitcoin network?
No.
Someone would have to be like on
site?
us at one of our locations and sneak in and do something like it. It's not connected to the cloud or.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. If somebody like walked into the operations, one of our operations, and put some sort of malware.
What are we?
Well, that's the lovely thing about being diversified. You know, we don't have any one operator that can have a material impact on our business. So that's important. But these data centers there's a lot of security in all these 7 data centers, particularly in Iceland. Iceland, fortunately, is a place where crime doesn't happen too often, which is why I wasn't comfortable putting stuff in Argentina or wherever.
We're in Canada.
not sure if that's naive. I mean, there isn't that much crime in Iceland.
No, we just came from a cyber attack lecture, and we're talking about like you have access, they will go in and take, you know, say they won $20 million because they've taken your information. That's what he's talking about.
Well, we're not running a hardware business, so there isn't really information in the hardware. You'd have to, the real threat is if somebody physically steals the chips, but we're not touching the information. We have no information. We're not a software business. We're a hardware business. So if a cyber attack happens, that might affect our client, but we're renting computational power. We're not creating software. Does that make sense? That's why we don't have that kind of risk attached to the hardware.
So there's no data that they could ransom, is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
We're not
It's not
touching.
their data that they could ransom, they could still ransom data, just not your data, your
Yeah.
client's data,
We don't manage or store the data.
right?
Yeah, we don't manage data, we don't store data, we don't touch data. So
Oh.
it's a hardware business.
Yeah, but they can spam and attack your center and get you offline, and then the customer will not be able to run it, right? Computation.
I mean,
It's downstream, I think.
yeah, it's downstream.
Right.
We don't touch. Yeah, they don't. If that happens, the client would be affected,
Yeah.
not us.
But
Just
your,
reputational
but your
legal.
client, right?
It is our client, but like, there are so many clients. There are tens and tens of thousands of clients in these tier 3 data centers, and they have these incredible security systems. But you're right. It would affect them down the road if something happens. Fortunately, we have a pipeline of different clients to diversify our client base. But us personally, that would not affect us because we're running a hardware business, not a software business. Does that make sense? That's why it's not really naive.
1 minute per minute.
What's the definition of a generative AI in your industry?
So we're not doing generative AI. We're supporting it. So like ChatGPT 5, for example, that's generative AI. So what we're doing is we're renting computational power to people who are doing generative AI. So if you want to do ChatGPT, you have to use generative AI, but to do generative AI, you have to rent specialized computational power. We rent that computational power to the people who want to do generative AI. An example of that is ChatGPT.
So you don't really use the AI to increase your compute.
We don't touch the software, so that's why the cyber thing was not a risk for us. We don't touch the data. We are renting computational power. It would be very messy for us to touch data. We don't want to do that for cyber's Arxley reasons and a whole bunch of other reasons. We just don't want to get involved in that business.
That's one last one. What's the free cash flow you realistically can generate year in, year out?
Cam, do you want to take that?
On AI, well,
No, not an AI, the whole company.
well, you'd have to, like, you'd have to just know, like, annual Bitcoin price. There's macro.
You can tell me in Bitcoin if you want, like the free cash flow Bitcoin is fine.
No, I mean, it just, what's the Bitcoin price gonna be?
With more than 6,000 small and micro cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then ChannelCheck truly is your tree. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series lunches, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Microcap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since ChannelCheck is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why ChannelCheck is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.